Hello, my friends. Jerry Rosa here in the Rosa String Works Workshop. It is Friday, and that would normally mean a shop talk, but as I mentioned yesterday, we're going to just start calling them all vlogs at this point because there's very little difference in the format. And you're welcome to add your questions, comments, or whatever you want to talk about in today's video, and I will address them. Anyway, if you do that, try to remember to put a few question marks either at the front or the back. It don't really make too much difference as long as I can see the question marks. That helps a lot. It's only 31 degrees here on the farm this morning, which is 4 degrees warmer than it was yesterday. So it's warming up each day. And that's about a minus 0.556 on the C scale. We're at 101,065 subscribers today, so we only grew by about 40 or something like that, which is better than going the other way, so we're still growing. I've got a few metal detector finds to show you today, and I've got a short video on the furnace, and I thought you might be interested in seeing a little bit more detail about the furnace. And other than that, that's about all I got. Other than I thought I'd just play a tune here. I'm going to play just a short piece. I'm going to turn this little heater off down here. I'm going to play a little short piece of Soldier's Joy. And the way I play it, that's all you're going to want to hear anyway. It's a short piece. We used to play this crazy fast on stage. I mean, like crazy fast. I can't keep up with that anymore. So we still play. I still play it kind of fast, but nothing like we used to play it. And some people call this Payday in the Army, which is Soldier's Joy. About all that I could stand. You probably couldn't stand that much. I did this song not too long ago, a couple months ago or so. I told the story about this. I just thought I'd do it again. It's the only silly song I've ever really written. And for the new people, I just explained to you that I was leaving a jam session. This was at the end of the jam session. I was going home, and I was halfway out the door, and this was at the Doolittle Fire Department, by the way, is where the jam session was. And I was halfway out the door of the firehouse, and the guy grabs me by my arm, which was still kind of in the door, and he grabs me and he pulls me backwards through the door, back inside. And he says, "Hey, wait a minute, I got to ask you something." And I said, "What's that?" And he says, "I heard you can write a song about anything." And I said, "Well, I don't know where you heard that, but I've written a lot of songs." And he says, "Well, I was hoping you'd try to write a song about this." He says, "I've been trying to write this song for 3 years, and I cannot get past the first line." And I said, "Well, that must be a humdinger of a first line." And he says, "It is." And I said, "Okay, well, what is it?" He says, "Have you ever wished you were somewhere else, but when you got there, you wished you weren't?" Well, I said, "Yeah, that's quite a mouthful." I said, "I'll see what I can do." So it was 1 mile up to the highway from the firehouse. It was 7 miles down to my exit, and then 3 more miles to my farm. So that's a total of 11 miles. When I got home, I was completely finished with the song, and I'm not exaggerating. I was completely done. All I did was just go into the computer and write it down so I wouldn't forget it. It goes something like this. If you're playing along at home, I'm in G. This has what you call the circle of fifths, which is the EAD thing. So just in case you want to know that. Have you ever wished you were somewhere else, but when you got there you wished you weren't? Like the doctor's office or the DMV or somewhere that you work. Well, that's my whole life story, and if you listen to my sad tale, I'm gonna tell you why I had to spend 10 years in the Tupelo County Jail. You see, I went to the doctor's office, 'cause that's where my baby worked. And I was fixing to surprise her, so I put on my best shirt. But when I got to the doctor's office, well, it was me that got surprised. 'Cause there she sat on the doctor's lap, wearing nothing but her big blue eyes. Well, she jumped up and she turned real red, and that was a color I could see. And it was just as well, 'cause now there was nothing between that old doc and me. So I went for my knife, then I thought twice, and I grabbed an old bedpan, and I swung it like Mighty Casey. I was aiming for the grandstand. No, I might as well pick it. The coroner's report told it all real well, and I was charged with fumicide. That's a combination of the bedpan and old-fashioned homicide. Well, the judge just laughed through the book at me, but then I guess he had a second thought. And that was the break in the case for me, 'cause 10 years was all I got. Have you ever wished you were somewhere else, but when you got there, you wished you weren't? Well, that's my whole life story, and it kept me from finishing first. Well, I guess I'm a victim of circumstance. You've heard my sad tale, and now you know why I spent 10 years in the Tupelo County Jail. Yeah, I guess I'm lucky I only spent 10 years in the Tupelo County Jail. Well, there you have it. I'm not all seriousness. Anyway, did you notice the line that I put in there? That was a color I could see. That was a colorblind line there. She turned real red, and that was a color I could see. I was seeing red at that moment, in other words, in that particular song. But as I said, it's not based on anything, just a silly song. And of course the focus had to go out just because it can, and say, whatever. I don't have a lot to cover today, so we might as well get into, I was going to say, I know I put this in there, and then I couldn't find it here on my list. So let's go ahead and play the furnace video, and I'll let you see that, and then we'll move on from there. Had a couple of requests on yesterday's vlog to take a little deeper dive into the furnace, so I thought I'd show you some things about it. First of all, up in this upper area up here, there's 400 gallons of water, and that 400 gallons of water gets circulated with a circulating pump that I'll show you here in a second. And there's a line that goes down through here, it goes underground, goes all the way over to that box there, and that box is just hiding the pipes that go into the house. So it's underground until that point, then it comes up and goes through the wall in the house, and that's real close to where the furnaces are. So let me show you this a little bit more. First of all, we'll open up the box here and just give you a closer look at this. I don't know if you can see in here very well, but it's a pretty big firebox. This shovel, that shovel is about 5 feet long, and look how far it goes in here. See, it goes in the full length of the shovel. So it's in past the front of the door. So it's a really big furnace. It's way bigger than your average, even than your average wood furnace, really. So it's really huge, and it's really wide across there too. You can put a lot of wood in there. So then this is your circulating pump, and this is the hot water up here. And and there's where it returns back in. So this is sucking it out of here, I guess, or maybe it's the other way around. I don't know which way, but one way or the other, one of them's, yeah, this one's pointing down. So the water's going down here, coming back up in here and going back in. And this is a continual circulation. This does not ever stop. It continually circulates, never ever stops, as long as everything's turned on, of course. And again, as I said, it's just circulating that water through, underground through here. And as I mentioned yesterday in the vlog, when there's like 6 inches of snow out here, you'll see a line through here where the snow is melted, because that is losing heat. They told me it didn't lose any heat, but they lied. So, and then you can see how well insulated this all is too. So everything's really insulated. It is pretty good for what it is, but you know, it could even be better. And then there's a temperature controller here. Now this is actually going out. The lettering is hard to read now. I think it's at 180 right now. That 8 is missing a part of the letter. So anyway, I'm going to get a new one of these. This is the second one I've already put in here. But I got to put a new one in, and where I can read the numbers better. There's some lights on the outside to help you see at night. And that's about it, really. The back area here, you know, the clean out, you can take this off right here and clean it out. And you can get up through the pipe this way. And they don't want a cap on this. They say when you put a cap on it, it causes it to creosote up a lot more. They said just leave it open like that. So I have, since 2013, I've had no trouble with it ever creosoting up or anything. Now we'll go inside the house, and we'll be approximately where you see that box right there on the inside of the house. Okay, we're in the utility room. This is where the washer and dryer are, and the furnaces are in here. And you can see side by side, they're the two large Lennox Pulse furnaces. And there's good and bad reports on these furnaces, but these have had their heat exchangers replaced since we've owned the farm. And they're basically brand new, because since they've been replaced, I really haven't used them, and that's the truth. So they're just like new furnaces, really. And the heat exchanger, the A coil, if you will, is inside here. The A coils are inside here. There's those two big pipes where the water is being circulated continually, and it's also being circulated on this side over here on the A coils on this furnace. And actually, they're not separated in the ductwork, I guess. The ductwork must separate later. So the two furnaces together push all the air throughout the whole house. And it's a huge amount of ductwork up in the attic. And all that ductwork is insulated as well. So that's pretty much all there is to it, really. There's just hot water in, you know, going through an A coil in here, and hot water going through an A coil in there. And when the furnace kicks on, where the blower kicks on, it just blows hot, or just blows air through those hot water and all the way through the ductwork and throughout the whole house. Works very good. It actually keeps the house very warm. Not a problem at all on the heat. So then the last thing I thought I'd show you would be where the thermostats are here. And this one is for the wood. This one's for the air conditioning. Our air conditioning and our heating is two separate systems entirely. They used to have all three of these thermostats hooked into just one thermostat, and it was a nightmare. It always caused problems. So I took it on myself and separated all three of these out, and it works so much better. Never have any problems with it now. This one's for wood, this one's for AC, as you can see, and this one's for propane. This one is turned completely off, as you can see. We don't use it at all. At this point, I can turn this one off too, I guess. There we go. I turned it off. Anyway, I've got it off now, so the AC won't be kicking on by accident. It probably looks weird to have three thermostats, but for my purposes, and it just made things simpler to just keep three separate thermostats for the three different jobs. Whenever we're using propane, we use this one. Whenever we're using wood, we use this one. And whenever we're into the air conditioning mode, we use this one. Now, like I said, the air conditioning and the heating use different ductwork, everything. Everything's totally separate. So this one always needed to be separate anyway. And when I say separate, I do mean completely separate. The AC ductwork is completely different ductwork than the furnace ductwork. Why they did it that way, I don't know. But there's two sets of ductwork in the attic, one for air conditioning, one for furnace. And the attic was already cluttered anyway, and with two sets of ductwork, it's the worst attic on the planet to try to get through. Plus, you got to remember that it was three separate houses. They built roofs over the old roofs. It's a nightmare. I mean, like, it's a nightmare attic. It's the worst attic you'll ever see in your life. It's crazy horrible. But anyway, it's actually a fairly efficient, fairly simple system, the way the wood furnace works. In fact, if that one ever tore up, I could build one. I know I could build one. It worked just as well. I've already got several circulating pumps. In case that pump ever goes out, I've got a circulating pump I can stick right on there and keep going, It's really a very simple system. There's almost nothing to it. The hardest part of it is hooking up the A-coil inside the furnace in the furnace room. Other than that, it's a piece of cake. Let's see. I found a few things yesterday. I worked on my to-do list first, and I did that all morning, and all of the stuff I knocked off was all paperwork, but I knocked off 3 of the items on there. That I balanced all my accounts, and I got caught up on all the accounting and all the orders and things like that. So, and I'm, caught up on the mail and the whole bit. So the office work is fairly caught up. It could always be more. But after that, I thought, I'm getting to be kind of a dull guy here. That's all I do is work. So I decided to go out and do some metal detecting. So I took the tractor and I drove about, I don't know, it's more than a quarter of a mile. I would say you're probably a good third of a mile path. And I went down and came back. So, by the time you do both of those, you're metal detecting about 2/3 of a mile in a straight line, and then, back, of course, in all inclusive. So I didn't find a lot. I found quite a bit of trash, and I mean like real trash, like, aluminum can type trash and, pull tabs and junk like that. Found all that kind of trash. Then I found some stuff that's a little better than just average trash, although even this stuff you guys would probably consider trash. One of them was another shotgun shell. This thing was 12 inches deep. I mean, it was way down in the ground. It's a Western leader again, and I know that this was made from the 1890s up through the, I think, 1930s, something like that. So it could be in the 1900s. It could also be in the 1800s. But I thought it was interesting to find it, especially to find it that deep. And then I found just a couple of bullet slugs. These are fairly modern, although this one has the white patina, which tells me it's really old. So this one was probably shot out of some early black powder rimfire type rifle or something. I don't know. I doubt it's Civil War. I mean, I guess it's possible, but I don't know. But it's probably of that era. It's pretty old, I would say. It's shortly after the Civil War anyway. So found that. Again, none of this is very good. This is a giant, well, do you know what it is? I mean, you can probably tell what it is. It's a giant lug nut. It's probably off a tractor or something. And again, this was really deep. It was a good 10 inches down. And then I found this, which is a ring off of I'm pretty sure it's off a single tree or something like that. You know how, if you've been watching my son's channel, how he's been working Oliver with the harness, and you notice that one wooden bar that trails behind the horse pretty close to his feet. That's called the single tree. And there's these 2 rings that on each side that you can hook your harness to, and it connects back to the wooden bar, and then the wooden bar has a single round link to hook to your load. So in other words, the bar is about this wide or whatever, and then there's a single link that comes off that and hooks to the load. This one could be the single link, or it could possibly be one of those other links on the other side. But I'm pretty sure that's what it's off of. I'm pretty sure it's off a single tree. And the reason I say that is because you can see how it's worn here and worn here. And so it was definitely pulling like this. So it's almost guarantee you that's what it was off of. And it's hand forged type material, so it's very old. I mean, it's possible it could be from the early 1900s, but it's also very possible it's from the 1800s for sure. So anyway, and then I found this, which again is just trash, but it's pretty old. I'm going to say this is from the 30s or 40s at least, if not older. It's probably older. I doubt it's 1800s, although maybe it could be. I don't know, but it's obviously a salt shaker lid. It's one of those. I remember my great grandparents had those large salt shakers on the table. They were the big ones, big round ones. You don't see that anymore, and that's what this is off of. It's off of one of those old timey salt shakers. So this could be 30s, 40s, 50s. I mean, it could be 20s too, I guess. I don't know. But it's an early piece, and it wasn't real deep, actually. This was only about 3 or 4 inches down. But again, out in the middle of the field is where it's at, which is the weird part about it, out in the middle of the field. Why would it be out in the middle of the field? And why won't this stupid camera focus again? It's so stupid. It's so aggravating. Well, that's about everything I had planned for this morning, so let's see what the comments say. Clyde Price was the first one before we went live. Have a great day and have a wonderful weekend. Well, by the way, before I forget, because I'll forget if I don't do it, just stop and do it. And that is, I wanted to mention, I told you I was going to be taking a little, kind of a mini vacation, if you will, to do some hunting and stuff during the month of November here. And I think I'm actually going to start that tomorrow. And so I think it's going to go through next week, even though the rifle season for hunting doesn't start until the following weekend. But I think I'm going to use next week to bow hunt. I think I'm going to just spend the week sitting out there bow hunting and, with the possibility of shooting a big buck or something with the bow, or even a doe, meat for the freezer type deal. But I thought I would, because this is probably the prime week. The bucks will be chasing the does right now. If you're not familiar with hunting, they call that the bucks are in rut, and they're just constantly chasing the does. You're probably starting to see them dead on the highways all over the place. That's usually when you see them dead on the highways is during the rut, because the bucks are chasing the does and they just run across highways and everything. They're just crazy during this time of the year. So it's a perfect time to be hunting, because they'll run past you out there in the woods, or the bucks are looking for does. So if you use a doe bleat, it just makes a little sound sort of like that, not quite that harsh. But anyway, the bucks sometimes will just come looking for you. Of course, that makes it harder when you're shooting a bow, because you got to get them within, say 30 yards, and they're looking for you. So any movement you make, boy, they're going to see you. So it's not a piece of cake like you might think, that you call them in and it's just easy to get them. They're not dumb. They're really smart, and they're very, very, very weary and easily spooked. I mean, you can do the least little thing and spook them. I mean, I don't even know how to explain it, but like something just catch on your shirt, just like maybe like on the tree bark, you just catch your shirt, just that little bit, a tiny bit of sound. That'll throw that buck into alarm mode, and man, he'll probably take off. I mean, it don't take much, trust me. It's not a simple thing to do with a bow and arrow. But anyway, I think I'm going to go ahead and start doing that. So the point of me telling you all that is that that's going to change my time schedule for my vlogs. I probably will still put out a daily vlog during this time, but it's going to be more like midday. And I hesitate to say what time that's going to be yet because I don't know what kind of pattern I'm going to get into. So next week, when the vlogs start up again, they probably won't be at 8 o'clock in the morning unless I've just either already got my deer or just don't feel like sitting out there for some reason. But most likely it's going to be late morning or something like that, or maybe even early afternoon, possibly. So just thought I'd let you know, just so you know. All right, looking for the questions. Lester Cunningham has the first question that I see. He says, thanks, Jerry, for using your precious time to show and explain in detail your heating system. Thank you. You're welcome, Lester. I hope that it made sense to you. Carolyn Fike says, good morning, RSW fans. Looking forward to Jerry's content. Well, thank you. And looking for question marks as we go down there. I see Jeff Pierce looks like he has a question mark. Lester, did Jerry do a tour of his heating system? Oh, okay. Well, I did explain it some yesterday, and I think maybe that was what he was talking about. Plus, he was probably looking at the title of today's video, and that's probably what he was referring to. Anyway, moving down after we went live, Michael Tarlazzi, it looks like. Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Lancaster, that's the archery capital of the world. Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Yeah, I can't remember if... Seems like... I don't remember now which of the big names came from there. Seemed like Daryl Pace maybe, and maybe Doug Brothers. I can't remember all the guys. Richard McKinney. I don't know if any of those guys were specifically from Lancaster. But I used to shoot against all those guys in the early days, and they all went on to win Olympic and world medals and world championships and things. And I did actually beat... Richard McKinney and Doug Brothers in a tournament in Champaign, Illinois one time. And that was when I was very young, and like I told you then, everything changed when the coach made me jump on the trampoline. It just messed up everything. Tore up my arm. Moving on down, I don't actually see any question marks. We may have a short one today. Bob Gaddis says, good morning from Eastern North Carolina. He says, I have a practice of giving the first lines to my guitar picking friend, and a few days later he'll come back with a new song. Yeah. I've done that quite a bit. I haven't written that many songs lately. I think, as you guys know, the only song I've written is the one about finding the wedding ring back there. Carolyn Fike says, I think those are not really furnaces, but rather air handlers. At least that's their function. Well, yeah, I mean, they are propane also. All I got to do is flip the switch, and the propane will work in those furnaces still. So they can burn propane or, use it. And you can actually do both at the same time. It really won't hurt anything. But the air handler is separate for the AC. The actual air handlers are up in the attic, so the blowers and everything are totally separate for the AC. I don't know why they did that exactly, but they did. There's 2 5-ton units, one on each end of the house, and each of those units have its own air handler also. It's crazy. It's a crazy system. But that's a big house, and you kind of need some kind of crazy system for that house. Spike says, do you ever flush or drain the water in the heating system? Not so much flush it or drain it, but we test it, and we add this chemical there. So I haven't really had to flush it or drain it so far. Good morning. He says, all that we're watching should equal the likes, so click that like button, is William Pagan is saying. Ben Boyd, you you hunting with a recurve or a compound? Well, I haven't made that decision yet. You know, for years now. I mean, I used to only hunt with a recurve for a long time, but for the last, I don't know, 20 years or more, I've only hunted with a compound. I killed a lot of deer with a recurve. I killed a lot of deer with a compound. Yeah. In fact, you know, this will probably sound like another big brag, but there's very few that I've ever missed. In other words, whenever I've been out hunting with a bow, I typically hit them. I typically don't miss them if I shoot. But, yeah. I don't know now. I'm not so sure I'm up with the recurve. The biggest problem is I don't think I have a recurve that's really strong enough. I've got one. I did have one that was about 50 pounds that I made, but it broke. It was one of those that had some of the air pockets in it. It was the first one I made. It was a great shooting bow. It was a good, strong bow. But the bow I have right now, the one that you saw in the recent video, it's only about 35 pounds. So I was debating on whether I would want to take one that light hunting, and I don't really think I do. So I'll probably have to just use my compound. The problem with a light bow like that is trying to think of what the deer hunters call it for the. The only way I can explain it is that the deer jumps the string is what you call it. Like the noise when you release, like with your fingers. There's a sound, and I told you how skittish these bucks are. I mean, like, you cannot understand how skittish they are unless you see this firsthand. But between the time you release the arrow, especially with a recurve, not so much with a compound as much, but it still happens even with a compound, especially a slower compound. But a really fast compound will get it there quick enough. But by the time you release on a recurve, that buck has already dropped his height. In other words, their reflexes, as soon as they hear that sound, they're already down, and they go down lower, and they're jumping. There's that spring in their legs. So what they'll do is they'll drop 6 inches and to spring to jump. So like you release, they hear that sound, they spring down, and so your arrow now hits them high. So like instead of hitting them in the heart, you'll hit them in the backbone. And if you've ever watched hunting videos, especially of amateur hunters, you'll see them hitting them in the backbone all the time with a bow and arrow because they're shooting a slow bow and, all that. And they'll hit them in the backbone or hit them high. And then the deer, often, unless they hit them in the actual spine, the deer will take off. And you probably won't find it because when you hit them high like that, they don't bleed out. It might kill them eventually, and a lot of times they'll get well over it. And it might take them a couple of months, but they'll heal over and be fine. But so that's a problem with a bow. That's a real problem. That's why I don't think I'd want to take the 35 pounder. I don't think it shoots fast enough. It's not that it wouldn't shoot hard enough. It'll shoot hard enough to kill it, but it won't shoot fast enough to kill it. And so that's why I think I'll take my compound. I've got one of the pretty fast compounds, and it's an older one by today's standards, but it's a pretty fast one. It's I think it shoots pretty close to 300 feet per second, which is about, the newer, faster ones are probably a little over 300, but it's still pretty fast. I'm trying to remember I think it's a Bowtech, I think. I can't remember now which brand that I have now. I do actually have a custom compound that was made at the Hoyt factory by Daryl Dixon, who worked for Hoyt. Daryl was also a world champion, and Daryl called me up and said, hey, you need to get... Up to this point, I had never shot a compound. I had never shot one. I say never. What I mean is I never owned one to shoot. I had shot them at the range, trying them out, stuff like that. I didn't like them. And so Daryl called me one day and he says, we've got a compound. Hoyt just came out with a new compound. He says, you're going to love this thing. It doesn't, see, most of the compounds back then, they didn't let off that much. They were real short. They pinched your fingers. I mean, there was all kinds of problems with them. They just the early ones, and they kicked. That was probably the biggest thing. It was when you shoot them, they just kick forward and just jerk your arm, and I just didn't like them. Just didn't like them. So I went down to the range, and I told him my requirements is I had to have a 70-pounder. He says, well, we don't have them in 70 pounds, He says, it's only 50. But he says, I still think you should shoot it. Okay, so I came down there and I shot it, and I thought, wow, this thing does shoot good. I like this. This is a good bow. So I said, but I'm still not going to buy it because it's not 70 pounds. I don't want it unless it's 70 pounds. So he went back to Earl Hoyt, who was still alive at the time, and he asked him if he could build me a custom one at 70 pounds. And Earl said, sure. And so he did. And so I got the very first two-wheel compound Hoyt put out in 70 pounds. The very first one. In fact, I've still got it, and of course I painted over it with camouflage paint, which, good and bad. But anyway, the Hoyt logo, when Darryl put it on there, he got the logo crooked. So that would ordinarily be a cull. They wouldn't have sold that ordinarily, but anyway, he was making it special for me, so I got it. And anyway, I still have that bow, but it shoots pretty darn good, and still shoots hard enough to shoot. But the newer modern one, the Bowtech one I have now, is considerably better even now, because it's just like anything. The technology got better over time, and it really shoots fast. The Bowtech does, and I think that's what I have. I can't even swear to you that that's what I do have. I don't know where all that was leading, but yeah. Anyway. Somebody had asked about that, and I just thoroughly enjoy it. But you really do have to know your stuff when you're hunting a deer with a bow. Otherwise, you're going to wound a lot of deer, really, or cripple a lot of deer if you don't really understand the whole process. I understand it pretty good. I always aim super low. I would rather this has been my slogan my whole deer hunting life with a bow. I'd rather miss them low than hit them high. And that's my slogan. So I always aim really low. I'm talking like maybe that far from the bottom of the deer. If you hit them low like that and go right through, even if you're only that far from the bottom, you're going to probably cut the heart as you're going through, because the heart lays pretty low. And if they do go down that 6 inches, then you'll still hit them in the top of their lungs, And most of the time, with as fast as this bow is, and especially because I am using a release with this compound, it shoots fast enough that it gets there before they have much of a drop anyway. Believe it or not, they can drop at a heartbeat. I'm not kidding you. It's hard for you to believe it until you see it. I mean, their reflexes are lightning fast. Lightning fast. And those of you that have hunted, know that. Let's see, moving down through here. Does the water heating system build up mineral deposits? Well, I have to put these chemicals in there to keep that from happening. So far, I've never had any problem with it, but you know how that is. You can't really see it, so you don't really know. But as far as I know, it's okay. And I need to test it again this year, really, and check the chemical composition. So I kind of need to do that. I'll probably do that yet today. Gary Smythe from the UK. Good afternoon from sunny UK. Hope you and Sue are well. Do you have a photo of the pond area that shows the road, etc.? Drone would be brilliant. Well, Gary, that's that area of the farm that the drone won't fly in. Now, it probably will fly over the near end of the pond, but up the road, it's such an aggravating problem that drone will not fly on the county road going through my gate. That's the reason I bought the drone. That's the only reason I bought it, and I'm not making that up. I know people think, oh, you got to be making this up. It's just that typical rose of luck. I paid like $500 for that stupid drone. And, I don't hardly ever fly the thing. But the reason I bought it was I was going to make a really cool video flying through my gate where you could see the roses, the entry signs and everything, drive around the pond, fly down the road, fly right up to my shop, and just make it like you're coming to the shop. Was the way it was going to be my intro to all my videos. Well, I flew the drone, practiced it, and all this kind of stuff, so I'd get good at operating it. So then felt like I was confident enough to do that. So I take it up there on the road. It won't take off. It won't come off the ground. I'm going. So I take it back down here and monkey with it. And sure enough, it takes right off, flies, and does everything it's supposed to do. Take it back up there. It won't come off the ground. It's so frustrating. So somehow Fort Leonard Wood put some kind of a block in that area and the GPS on the drone knows it can't fly. It's a no-fly zone. It's just the typical luck I have. I don't know. I'm so used to it, I don't even care anymore. It's just that kind of thing. So, do I have an aerial photo there? Can I get one? I don't know. I can probably get one from a distance, angling at it, but I don't think I can get over the top of it. It's just frustrating, super frustrating. Grandpa Jeff, I would vote for the 2-story wheelhouse, would make stairs on the outside. There's no place to put them on the outside. It's either got to be on the inside or nothing on stairs. And the reason I say that is because, on the pond side, there's no room to put any stairs on the outside out there. On the water wheel side, there's no room to put any stairs out there. If you have a door on the other side, there's no room to put stairs there. There's no room to put stairs between the building and the rock wall because it's only going to be like 2 feet width there. So there's nowhere to put stairs except inside the building if I have stairs. And even then, I don't know that there's room in there for that either. So it just kind of is what it is. It's just impossible. I've got it all worked out in my head, and I do have one possible option to make stairs on the inside, but I don't know that even that will work for sure when I get to actually measuring it, but I kind of think I can make it work. I don't know. Probably won't even have stairs. It'll just be upstairs and downstairs, and you just have to go around, probably. Anyway, Gary Smythe from the UK says, how is the hot water delivered around your house? In the UK, we use radiators and underfloor heating. We just have a hot water heater, a standard round hot water heater. That's standard here in the U.S. It's a 40-gallon hot water heater. We don't even have a really big one. Well, although we do have multiple hot water heaters. We have one big, and I say big, 40-gallon. It's not that big these days. Lots of people have bigger ones. But anyway, we have a 40-gallon in the laundry room area there in the utility room. And that sends hot water to all the different sinks. But because our sink is so far away in our master bedroom, I put in a small, I think it's a 5 or 6 gallon hot water heater under the sink so that you get instant hot water at the 2 sinks in the master bathroom. Otherwise, the hot water gets to the other sinks fairly quick with just the 40-gallon. And we also have another hot water heater in the apartment that's attached to the house, separate one. But it's a small one. It's only like a 20-gallon one. And then let's see. Then I have the 2 single hot water heaters here in the shop. I have one in the bathroom and then one in my other, the dark side shop over there. I have a hot water. Those are just like 1.5 gallon hot water heaters, just enough to wash your hands. Then I have a hot water heater in the old farmhouse that nobody uses, and it still functions, though the hot water heater does. And we also have a hot water heater, of course, in the rental retreat. So, and guess who put every one of those in? And it's pretty much, I've done everything, trust me. you couldn't afford to have a place like this if you had to pay to have everything done, unless you're just independently wealthy, and I'm definitely not that. So it's you either learn how to do everything or you just do without. Is pretty much how it works. C. Wilczek says, hey Jerry, so you only have one thermostat for your whole house? Not, well, I mean, for the heating, yes. For the air conditioning, there's one where you saw that one, and that one controls one end of the house. And then for the other air conditioner unit that has its own air handler, it has its own thermostat at the other end of the house. So technically, there's actually 4 thermostats in the house. 2 for AC, and the other 2 are for heating. Yeah. And, it would be better if there was other ways. But, see, this isn't zoned like a new modern house would be zoned. You can't, there's not much you can do with it, trust me. It sounds simple, but it ain't simple. There ain't nothing simple about that house. And how you could try to retrofit it, it just isn't possible or practical. Anything's possible, it's just not practical, especially on a cost-effective practicality basis. Jeff Pierce, there's a county airport within a few miles of your farm that could cause the weird drone problem. But I'm pretty sure I checked it out. I'm pretty sure it's Fort Leonard Wood. You will see helicopters fly that path that they cut right across right there. I don't know why they do, but they do. Because to me, that's not really on line with the fort. But I see them cut through there all the time. So I don't know. They must have some particular flight path that they like to fly. And I pay the cost. It's so stupid. It's really stupid. Like even if, you would think that the drone or the flight restriction would be restricted at a certain height or something, and that the drone could fly to 50 feet high. I mean, you're not going to hit a helicopter at 50 feet, or less. You could fly at 50 feet or less. I only need to fly it at 6 feet. It's so dumb. It's just so dumb. I did try to apply for an exemption, and I never heard back from them. So I don't know. I just gave up. It isn't worth it. And plus, it's water under the bridge at this point because I don't care at this point. I'm not going to do it anyway. DE, if you decide on a 2-story wheelhouse, why not a narrow mezzanine inside, and instead of stairs, have a railed ladder or railed steps? I guess you possibly could. Yeah, I guess you could. I don't know. That's a possibility, I suppose. I don't know that we really need, access between the up and the down anyway. The down is probably where we're going to store all the stuff. The up is just mostly for looks for the most part. So it probably doesn't really matter whether they have a way to get from one to the other anyway, for the most part. Chuck Heidbritter, have you considered a ramp from the road to the second story? Well, yeah, there will be something going. Yeah, there'll be like a small front porch or a step up or something to get into it. It won't be much. But if I do it, I am not even 100% sure I'm going 2-story, but I think I will. I kind of think I will. Yeah. You'd think, most of you people are not that indecisive. You mostly figure out what you're going to do and just do it. But I like to consider all the possibilities and try to think of all the pitfalls and all the pros and the cons before I go committing all the resources to it, because it can get ugly quick when you start building something like that. So I'm just trying to think it through and think of all the different possibilities and pros and cons and all that. Today, Alex and his family are coming, and you've seen Alex on a video or two where he's helped me. And more than likely, in fact, there's probably 2 or 3 things I'm going to do today. I'm probably going to go out in the woods and scout my tree stands and make sure that I have a tree stand or 1 or 2 tree stands where I can set in for the bow hunting for starting tomorrow probably. So I'll probably do that, clear out that area, and I will probably also possibly cut down a cedar tree or two to get ready to start making the siding. I want to get the siding cut and ready to go before I even start building the building. So yeah, it's going to be a little delay before I actually get started on the building, just so you know. But there's a lot of work to do, and yeah, it just is what it is. I mean, I could go buy wood, I could do that. I can afford to buy wood, but I don't want to. I got all these stupid cedar trees that are really of no benefit at all. They don't really even help the wildlife much. Then we might as well cut them down and use them for something, And in fact, the conservation said you should get rid of all of them. That's what the conservation said. They said you ought to just cut down all these cedar trees. You don't need them for nothing. And all they do is they suck water out of the ground. They said they steal more water than the other trees do. So anyway, I probably will be cutting cedar to make some siding and things like that. And I'm sure Alex is going to want to do something, so we'll probably be doing that, make use of his time here. Let's see. Travis Fixer says, "Good morning, Jerry. Do you know Set Your Fields on Fire?" No, I've played that tune a lot, but I played it with the Morrow Sisters. And Patty Morrow, that you saw in the last live concert, she played the fiddle. Her sister, Mary Jane, I think, was the lead singer on that song, and Patty sang the harmony, Set Your Fields on Fire. And here's just another little silly bit of trivia, but it's true, and I can't even tell you how many years in a row it happened, but I'd say 3, maybe as many as 5 years in a row this happened when we played that song. We used to meet up at the what they called the Illinois Traditional Country Music Association. They had what they called their state competitions. And I won their mandolin competition, I think eight times or something like that. So I was like the 8-time Illinois state champion, according to them anyway. Which wasn't really true. The competition wasn't very stiff, to be honest with you. So anyway, but I did win that a number of times. Well, I would also play in the Morrows. Up there, you could just make up your own bands. In other words, you could take your own band up there, and I did that a couple of times, 2 or 3 times actually, or maybe more, probably more. And we'd also form a country band with just me and maybe the Morrow Sisters and another couple of other people, and then the Morrow Sisters would have their family band. So I was in like 3 or 4 or 5 different bands, and we were all. So I was competing against myself a lot of times. It was just fun, and there was quite a few other bands that were formed up there in similar fashions. And we would just have fun. It was mostly just a fun weekend. But anyway, 4 or 5 times in a row on that song you're talking about, when the Morrow Sisters would sing that song, he will set your fields on fire. And I'm talking 3 to 5 times, at least that many times. And so once per year, if you will, because they only sang the song once per year, it came a cloudburst. And I don't mean like a sprinkle. I mean, while we're on stage, while we start singing that song, it came a cloudburst every single time, like for at least 3 years in a row, and I'm pretty sure it happened more than that. And it happened every single time. And when I say cloudburst, I'm not talking about a light rain. I'm talking about like it flooded the place. Where, like, in fact, one year for sure, we had to just suspend the whole thing, and everybody had to leave and get out of the way because it flooded the whole area. And each one of those actually happened while we were singing the song. It wasn't raining at all, and then it came a cloudburst. So I don't know how that happened, and I don't know why it happened, but it did, and that's just a bit of true trivia, and it really did happen. Anyway, crazy. So I don't really know it, but if Patty were here, I'm sure we could have done it. Dennis Moon, Jerry, yesterday after you sang Vine Covered Church, I ran a search on Apple Music for that song. The first album found was the Witcher Brothers album, Finding the Way. Sharing the royalties. Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, I get royalties when the song was played. It's not played enough to get any royalties anymore. You know, that whole royalty thing is the biggest farce on the planet. I mean, it really is. BMI and ASCAP get rich. They get rich. The uh, people that wrote the songs and, you know, performed the songs, I mean, you know, the really big names, Taylor Swift and those kinds of people, you know, they're going to get rich too. But the rest of us, it's pretty slim pickings. It's pretty darn slim pickings. And it's really a big farce. It really is. You pay tons of money for ASCAP licenses and BMI licenses and all kinds of crud, and you get very little back. I think if I remember correctly, at the time, keep in mind this was back in the 90s mostly, and some early 2000, quite a bit of the early 2000s too, maybe up through about 2010, I was getting royalties. And I think at the time you were getting something like 3 cents per airplay, something like that. So it has to be played a lot before you know, get a $75 check. You know what I'm saying? So I got one of my checks was like $75. But then again, you know, the radio stations, it's all up to how they report it. I know this because I worked at 2 different radio stations, you know, and if you're really conscientious and you report every song you play, well, then that's pretty good. But then did every other radio station do that? You know, and so it's unlikely you're going to get anything out of this stuff. I mean, unless, like I said, unless it's a major hit, you know, you don't get nothing. And that's just the name of that game. That's just the way it is. It's just the truth of it. And I don't know a better way to make it better because it's kind of impossible, really. I mean, the only way to make it better would be to make it all totally 100% computerized. And every time that song pops up in the computer to be played, then it would feed to the ASCAP or BMI. If you could do that somehow and have every radio station tied on the internet somehow and make that happen, you could possibly make it more realistic and pay the proper amount to the proper person. But it's water under the bridge again for me. But let's see. Yeah, James. Yeah, but you're correct there. It was definitely the Witcher brothers that recorded the song. James Kopp says, "Morning from San Leon, Texas. Practicing with a singer-songwriter who is our age. We both retired from the University of Texas Medical Branch." Cool. Gary Smythe, do you write the words first and then the music? You know, Gary, I most of the time I think I do both at the same time. You know, like I'll just have a line in my head and I'll sing that line. And I do them both at the same time, pretty much. I know a lot of people will write the words first, and a lot of people will write the music first. I'm just different. I just do it both at almost exactly the same time, and it seems to work for me. Honestly, I couldn't even tell you how many songs I've written. I have lost track of it. I have a good number of them documented, but I'm sure I lost at least as many as I have documented. I would say I've written well over 100 songs, and maybe more than that. Payday 1963. Hi, Jerry. You may want to consider a short fence on top of the block wall to protect someone from walking off. Maybe a split rail. Yeah, it's not a bad idea there. It's not a bad idea. That could happen. It's probably a smart thing to do. Even though, you know, we're so remote and there's so little traffic out here that it's very unlikely it would happen, but it is possible that it could happen. So probably should do that. The Freeze. I like your song, Grandpa's Old Fiddle. Is there a problem if I play it at a venue? No, I will give you permission to play it. I've had lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of people play that song. Um, yeah, I by far that's been my most popular song. It never had much commercial success. I will tell you, and this is a true story too. There was a DJ over in Illinois. I sent him the song. This was way back there, 80s, 90s, somewhere in there. Well, actually, I wrote it about 89, so it had to be about early 90s. Um, he called me up one night, and I was at home, and he just called me up one night, and I didn't really know this particular DJ very well, but he just thought he should let me know. And he says, I just thought I'd let you know that for the last several months, your song, Grandpa's Old Fiddle, has been the most requested song in our, of all the songs in the radio station. So I thought that was pretty cool. Um, so apparently it struck a chord with someplace there in Illinois. Roger Woodbury, spiral staircase could work inside or out, though I'm not a fan. Yeah. Yeah, it's spiral staircases, though, believe it or not, and especially considering how small this building is going to be, you have to understand it's only 8 by 10. That would take up almost all the floor space. So if I did it, the way I have it envisioned that I would do it is I'd have the stairs coming down against one wall, probably against the wall where the water wheel is, and have the stairs go above where the water wheel axle is. That, I mean, if it can work, and I'm not sure it can, but I'm envisioning it that it would come down from upstairs along that wall. Then I would have a platform and turn and come down the rest of the way. That still takes up a lot of floor space in a tiny little building. I just don't think it's even necessary to have a stairs inside it. I really don't. And the person that mentioned the ladder idea is probably the best idea if I was going to do it. It really is probably the best because that would take up the least amount of floor space, and at least you could get from one to the other if you needed to. And that probably is the best way to go. Mike Soba, what brand of water heater do you have underneath the sink in your bathroom to heat water quickly? Well, in the far back in the master bathroom, I can't remember the brand, and I can't remember the brand. Well, I can't remember the brand of any of them, to be honest with you. They're just electric water heaters, though, the ones that go under the sinks. We didn't mess with gas because then you'd have to pipe gas all the way that far. So they're just small electric water heaters. You can buy them at pretty much any box store. But these two that I have here in the shop that just are under the sinks, at what I call the slop sinks, just those little deep well sinks. I have one for this shop, and I have one in the metal shop. Those are just little gallon and a half water heaters, and quite honestly, they're great for if you just need enough to wash your hands and maybe wash up some stuff you're working on, that kind of thing. And they're quick recovery because they're only a gallon and a half. It doesn't take very long to heat up a gallon and a half of water, so they're pretty quick recovery too. So you can do more with that than you think you can. And I think I do have a link to those, or to the most recent one I bought, in my products I use page. So if you wanted to support the channel by purchasing one. Now, like I said, those are really small. Those are only for washing your hands. They're not for showering and all that. But the bigger one that I put up in the master bathroom, it was like 5 or 6 gallons. And that gives you enough water that you can get in and start a shower. Quite honestly, then somehow or another, there's enough water in the lines that the water will cool off a little bit as it gets toward the end of that 5 or 6 gallons, and then it heats back up again. So I don't know. That's a little bit of a negative, but at least you get pretty quick hot water back there because it's a long way to the hot water heater. But anyway. I don't know. I'm no expert on the water. And there is a better way to do it. is just not all that practical for me. Is that it might work. I mean, actually, it probably could work. Is that you put again, kind of like that circulating pump that's on the wood furnace. You know how it keeps the water circulating the whole time? They make that for your residential hot water system also, that just circulates the hot water continually, and then your water at any location is always hot the moment you turn it on. So that's a possibility too. If you're looking into something, you might want to check that out. And it would be good for ours. I should do that. I should look into that and do it. But it's just one of those things. I got enough on my plate as it is, and it's already working. So unless it breaks, I doubt I would do that. Moving on here. Do we have any more? I think the last one, David Tharp says, why are the microwave bacon cookers always at least 1.5 inches shorter than the bacon? Yeah, I can't really answer that one. Like I told you, I don't cook. I have actually microwaved bacon before. The only kind of cooking I do is like if I can microwave something or maybe fry like an egg, or boil a hot dog or fry a hot dog. One of those things, or cook, take a stick and cook something over an open fire. Yeah, that's the only kind of cooking I ever do. Trust me, it never gets any deeper than that. And I make my popcorn, and that to me, making popcorn is about as deep as I get into cooking. But when you don't eat any vegetables and you really don't like food that much, it's kind of normal for me. Guys, I guess that's it. We've been at this about an hour. We had a little over 150 viewers at one time. We're at 146 now. So I guess I'm going to get off here and maybe go out in the woods and check out my deer stands maybe. And because I am kind of thinking I kind of want to sit out there for just a few days with the bow. I probably won't spend more than 4 or 5 days bow hunting, to be honest with you. I do thoroughly love bow hunting, but I don't know. I just got so many irons in the fire is the problem. I just can't. I sit out there thinking about all the things I should be doing is my problem. I can't relax is the real problem. We will see you sometime, probably Monday, but it may not be in the morning time. Like I'll remind you one more time. It'll probably be more like mid-morning or late morning or maybe even early afternoon. And I'll try to get some kind of video out this weekend, but honestly, I'm not sure I have anything for this weekend, but I'll see if I can find something, and I'll get it out if I can. We'll see you then. Thanks.